Welcome, friends. You're watching the Ruslan Belov channel, and today, May 3rd, 2026, we have a truly packed breakdown for you. So much has happened that there won't be a dull moment. Before we dive in, the usual request: subscribe to the channel and make sure you hit the bell icon, selecting all notifications. This isn't just a formality. YouTube is actively suppressing this type of content. Military analytical channels are regularly hit with shadow bans and algorithmic throttling. Every subscription, every bell notification is real, tangible support for independent analysis. Thank you to those who've already done it, and a special word of gratitude to our sponsors and everyone supporting the channel through super thanks. You make this work possible. Now, let's get into it. Today, the front line has thrown up several genuinely significant developments, so let's start with the hottest story. Sumy direction, Myropilya has fallen. The front is cracking. The Sumy direction is today, without exaggeration, the headline military story of the past 24 hours. The northern group of forces has concluded its months-long battle for the settlement of Myropilya and taken it under full control. Let's be clear, this is not some nameless hamlet. Myropilya is a sizable town with developed infrastructure and a dense built-up area, offering genuine opportunities for fortification and maneuver. The fighting for it stretched across several months, and that chapter is now closed. What does this mean in operational terms? The Russian army is systematically sealing the northern perimeter of Sumy Oblast. Shortly before this, fighting concluded at Mala Korchakovka and Korchakovka, and the battle for Novapavka is already unfolding. Now, with the capture of Myropilya, a corridor opens up for an advance bypassing the Psel River, pushing westward toward Velika Chernechina. In parallel, Russian units are already closing in on Krasnopilya, and this axis of advance is beginning to look increasingly systematic and deliberate. Equally telling is the accompanying activity: sustained strikes against logistics infrastructure. 8 fuel stations destroyed on the Kharkiv direction, combined with relentless reconnaissance, give strong grounds to conclude that the Sumy-Kharkiv vector is becoming one of the priority axes for the entire 2026 campaign. This is not episodic pressure. This is the formation of a sustained strategic pressure corridor across northeastern Ukraine, potentially one of the defining axes all the way through to the conclusion of the active phase of the conflict. The Ukrainian response came swiftly. The AFU, Armed Forces of Ukraine, are launching counterattacks from the areas of Velika Rybitsia and Mala Rybitsia. The objective is clear: prevent Russian units from consolidating firmly on the eastern bank of the Psel River and attempt to retake Myropilya. Whether they succeed is an open question. The Russian army is already digging in across the town, with FPV crews and other assets operating at full capacity. The situation remains acute. We are watching closely. Kharkiv sector. Logistics under fire. On the Kharkiv direction, today's focus shifts from positional maneuvering to infrastructure pressure. 8 fuel stations destroyed. These are not random strikes. This is deliberate, targeted work against the AFU's fuel logistics on this operational axis. For those who follow these things, the signal is clear. Without functional refueling, armored vehicles, troop rotations, and resupply of forward positions become a logistical nightmare. A reminder: as recently as yesterday, Russian advances were recorded in this area, approximately 70 square kilometers by some estimates, though these figures still require verification and confirmation by mappers. The Ukrainian side is clearly trying to absorb and counter this pressure, but the initiative right now is not in their hands. Kupyansk, information silence and what lies behind it. The Kupyansk direction has remained unusually quiet in terms of information flow for the past 10 days. The one concrete event on record is from May 1st. Russian forces conducted a counter-offensive along 1st May Street and took control of a specific block in the western part of Kupyansk. A seemingly minor episode, but it confirms that a combat-capable Russian grouping remains active in the western part of the city. The information silence on this direction is itself telling. Either both sides are building up forces, or intensive positional work is underway without the kind of dramatic breakthroughs that generate headlines. Either way, Kupyansk remains firmly on our radar, and we continue to monitor the situation. Lyman direction, reconnaissance in force, or the start of an offensive. This is today, arguably, the most analytically intriguing material of the briefing. Let's recall the context. Between April 26th and 27th, pro-Ukrainian sources and a number of mapping resources reported an AFU counter-offensive in the Lyman area. According to those reports, the Ukrainian side improved its positions around Sviatohirsk, Sosnove, Yarova, Drobyshev, and Lyman itself. These corrections spread widely across Telegram channels, but no video confirmation followed at the time. Today, the situation developed in an unexpected direction, and from the opposite end. Pro-Ukrainian sources published footage from the area of the settlement of Prishaib, and these frames amounted to a genuine bombshell. They show 4 servicemen of the Russian armed forces crossing the Siversky Donets River and moving on to the eastern outskirts of Prishaib, taking up positions. Strikes against those positions follow shortly after. The key point to note, the video was published by the Ukrainian side, meaning the presence of Russian units on the western bank of the Siversky Donets has effectively been confirmed by the AFU themselves, albeit indirectly, through the publication of strike footage. On the basis of this video, the map has been corrected. Russian forces are operating, at minimum with reconnaissance and sabotage detachments, on the Ukrainian side of the river, and fighting appears to already be underway for a foothold on the approaches to Prishaib, with its extensive network of fortified positions. The question every analyst is now asking: is this a reconnaissance in force ahead of a serious push toward the northern part of Sloviansk, or a limited force probe without operational follow-through? On the balance of available evidence, more likely a force reconnaissance with a possible foothold expansion, but only the dynamics of the coming days will give a definitive answer. In parallel, reports are coming in of AFU raids in the areas of Brusivka, Dibrova, and along Highway T0513, though so far without video confirmation. The Ukrainian side appears to be probing the flanks and attempting to prevent Russian positions from consolidating. Sloviansk direction, a pause that bears watching. The Sloviansk direction is registering a pause that is out of character with the current operational rhythm. From approximately November of last year, the Russian army demonstrated a steady, sequential advance southward from Siversk, a consistent tempo, almost metronomic in its regularity. Now, 3 days without substantive updates. This can be interpreted in more than one way. Either the information environment has been temporarily closed off for operational reasons, or a build-up and regrouping is underway. The holiday period often brings a slowdown in the public information flow, not because the front is quiet, but because coverage temporarily thins out. We will continue to monitor. Kostiantynivka, the news tightens. The Kostiantynivka sector is right now, without exaggeration, one of the most dynamically shifting points on the entire front line. From approximately April 24th, the map here has been corrected every single day. Not through dramatic breakthroughs or encirclements, but through methodical, daily slicing at the flanks, eastern and western alike. 1 to 2% of the city per day, seemingly modest, but over the course of a month, that is catastrophic for the defending side. As of today, available data indicates that approximately 26 to 27% of Kostiantynivka's territory is under the confident control of the Russian armed forces, together with the adjacent flanks. In the past 24 hours, corrections were recorded in the eastern part of the city. The AFU is gradually withdrawing toward the central citadel, the area of City Hospital No. 2, small warehouse complexes, and a factory quarter running along Highway H20. This is the last line of defense, beyond which the agony of the garrison begins. A critical operational detail. Reports are coming in of Russian units advancing along the eastern outskirts of Novapavka and reaching the lakes and reservoirs to the north of the city. This effectively means that the AFU garrison's supply route from the northeast has been placed under threat. Movement through tree lines under constant aerial surveillance has become lethally dangerous. The conclusion that follows almost inevitably: organized resistance in Kostiantynivka is living out its final weeks. Doilia and Novapavka directions. The advance continues, brief but to the point. On the Doilia direction, further corrections are recorded in the Hryshyn area. The Russian army continues to press. Novapavka sector, small corrections in the eastern part of the city. According to a number of military experts and analysts, fighting for this settlement is also approaching its conclusion. Both directions remain in a mode of methodical, unhurried, but unstoppable pressure. Zaporizhzhia direction, an unexpected turn. The Zaporizhzhia sector today produced perhaps the most unexpected news of the briefing, and it came from where no one was looking. Let's start with Velika Mikhailivka. Over the past several days, a number of reliable pro-Russian sources, including channels connected to specific units on the ground, had been reporting improved Russian army positions in the Lyman area on the Ukrainian side of the line, describing it as a gradual infiltration between strongpoints. Today, however, comes fundamentally different information. According to a number of pro-Ukrainian, neutral and pro-Western sources, the Ukrainian side has launched a series of counterstrikes and pushed through to the settlements of Saikhneva, Voskresenka and Alexandrograd, wedging between them. In other words, rather than attempting to dislodge Russian units from the wooded area head-on, the AFU appears to have crossed the Vovcha River and struck at the flank, aiming to disrupt the logistics and defensive perimeter of Russian positions. No confirmation yet, no video, no objective control footage. The situation demands careful observation. If the information is confirmed, this would represent one of the most significant AFU tactical maneuvers on this sector in recent weeks. We are waiting for further developments. On the Huliaipol direction, a protracted stalemate. Russian forces at one point took Myrn and advanced toward Verkhnya Tersa, but the Ukrainian side then pushed back and retook Verkhnya Tersa. Rizhdivianske remains held by Russian troops, but straightening the front line has proved elusive. Voskresenka and Verkhnya Tersa are under AFU control. Ukrainian command clearly views this sector as a priority from a defensive standpoint. The fall of Kharkiv would open a direct threat to Zaporizhzhia, drone coverage, artillery range, and general operational exposure. In the northern part of the Zaporizhzhia salient, mutual engagements in the pocket between the Yanchur and Haichur rivers. Both sides attacking, counter-attacking, with no substantial changes. The most significant developments on this sector are unfolding on the western Zaporizhzhia axis, in the area of Stepnohirsk and Primorske. Over recent weeks, several reliable sources have recorded sustained AFU activity on this axis. Today, footage was published from the southern outskirts of Primorske. The frames show Russian Army FPV drone strikes against Ukrainian forward positions. The key takeaway, a significant portion of the Daka district south of Primorske is under AFU control. On the basis of this footage, combined with the body of previously received reporting, the map has been corrected. Ukrainian positions extend northward, up to and including Hrihorivka. The aim of the Ukrainian counterstrikes is to push Russian units southward toward Kamenska and restore the front line along the water barrier at the southern outskirts of Stepnohirsk. That is the operational logic driving the current offensive activity. Middle East, 14 points that detonated the diplomatic airwaves. We move to the geopolitical bloc, and here too there is no shortage of substance. Tehran today officially transmitted its 14-point plan for resolving the Middle Eastern conflict to Washington. The expert community's reaction was immediate and unambiguous. The plan was characterized as maximalist, and not without justification. In its essence, this is not a proposal for compromise. It is effectively a set of capitulation terms directed at the American side. Iran insists it has emerged from the conflict as the victor and is inviting Washington to simply acknowledge that fact. The US president commented on the document publicly, in his characteristic manner, indicating he had received the paper from Iran and would be reviewing it shortly. The tone of his remarks, however, leaves little room for ambiguity. Washington has no intention of accepting Tehran's terms, which means the probability of renewed hostilities remains high. In parallel, at least 3 interconnected processes are developing simultaneously, all of which demand attention. First, the United States is withdrawing its forces from Europe, Germany in particular, and assembling a formidable strike grouping. By the logic of events as they are unfolding, these forces are being repositioned toward the Middle East, which may indicate preparation for a ground phase of operations against Iran. Second, Iran is gradually curtailing oil production. Storage facilities are nearly full, and in the near term production will have to be shut down entirely. There is simply nowhere left to put the crude. This threatens multi-billion-dollar losses and a prolonged recovery period, and this is precisely what American strategists are waiting for. When Iran's oil industry is forced into a position of involuntary collapse, the pressure on Tehran will reach a critical threshold. Third, Iran is attempting to break the blockade through China. A portion of the Shadow Fleet's tankers are breaking through and heading for Chinese ports. In response, the United States has placed a number of major Chinese oil refineries on its sanctions list. Dollar-denominated transactions with them are now blocked. Beijing has issued a sharp statement declaring these sanctions illegal and has effectively signaled its enterprises to continue processing Iranian oil in defiance of American restrictions. Moreover, China is concluding agreements with a number of regional states on transitioning to yuan-denominated payments for petroleum products, a direct attempt to move those transactions outside the reach of the American financial system. And here a critical systemic question arises. Can the United States actually control bilateral yuan settlements between China and third countries? For now, no, and that is a significant precedent for the entire architecture of global sanctions mechanisms. That's all for today, friends. An intense 24 hours and an equally intense briefing with no less eventful days ahead. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, press the bell. It is the single most valuable thing you can do to support independent military analysis under current conditions. Thank you for your support. Until the next episode.